Good evening. I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of Ahmedabad Management Association for today's webinar as part of AMA's Healthcare Week on Wellness through Management. Now, I would like to invite and request Sri Rajiv Mehta sir, Executive Director CL Packaging Private Limited, past President of AMA, to share more details about today's webinar and take it forward. Thank you, sir. Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mukund bhai. Good evening to all. I'm very happy to be here with all of you on virtual mode. And I would like to say that this AMA Healthcare Week on Wellness and Management is moving very, I would say, interestingly for all the participants. Three sessions are over. Today is the fourth session, and after that, three more sessions. So we are in the middle of the week, which started from 21st and it's going to continue till 27th. Today, we have with us a very eminent speaker, a very well-known person in Gujarat, and a very committed, dedicated, I would say, fighter on the COVID in Gujarat, Dr. Dilip Mavlankar. He is the director of Indian Institute of Public Health, Gandhinagar, and he is director since 2012. So, very long period. He has received MBBS and MD from preventive and social medicine from Gujarat University. But then he did his MPH and Dr. PH from the John Hopkins School of Hygiene, was very renowned institution in USA. His work experience is very wide and varied. I would say he has worked in India and outside India. In India, he has worked with NHL Medical College. He has worked with National Institute of Health in Bethesda in USA. He's also worked with Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad, the premier institute. And he has worked with Wyman School of Public Health in Columbia University in New York, USA. He's also been consultant to many agencies. Dr. Mavlankar actually has authored several publications also, and he has been advisor to key academic and government organizations and NGOs. He was appointed as by the Prime Minister of the India of High Level Mission Steering Group of the National Rural Health Mission constituted by the government in 2005 by Government of India. And as of now, he is the member secretary actually of the Gujarat government COVID task force appointed by Chief Minister of Gujarat. So very wide experience. And today he is going to talk about building healthier India through public health management. May I request Dr. Mavlankar to address the program.
Thank you, Rajiv bhai. I hope you are able to all hear me. If you allow me, let me share my screen and start the presentation. So we will have some time to also discuss if time permits. My topic is building a healthier India through public health management. First of all, I want to thank the Ahmedabad Management Association and its team led by Rajiv Bhai Mehta and others, Mukund Bhai and others, for inviting me and selecting this at least very interesting topic for me, but somewhat unknown to the public, except for last pandemic. Now we are understanding little bit of what is public health, because normally what happens is public health is invisible. Firstly, because it is forgotten, and even when it is most important, it is like oxygen. You can't see it till you feel shortage of oxygen, you then start looking for oxygen. Otherwise, you take it for granted. So that is like public health. we always hear about hospitals, oxygen, labs, and now because of the pandemic, some epidemiology, flattening the curve, etc., how viruses are transmitted. So that is all public health. But public health managers are invisible. They are most of the times forgotten. If you may recall, Modi Saab has been always saying frontline warriors, but they are only doctors and nurses and other technicians, etc., who directly deal with patients and who cure the infected patients, affected patients, because you can see them, patients who are falling sick, they get well, you can see them getting well, and whole society sort of applauds the people who do this good work, and it should be applauded. But if we prevent a case of COVID, it is not easy to appreciate. If we prevent a case of polio or any other disease or diabetes or cancer, uh, nobody realizes that one case is prevented except when you make it visible through statistics. So if you maintain proper statistics, then only you can see the importance of public health. And that is why it is in some sense forgotten. But I must thank Ahmedabad Management Association that they have made it a point to invite me as a representative to talk about how public health can help improve the health of the nation. With that, let me begin a little bit on health of the nation. Like in cricket, we compare scores of different countries. When we talk of health of the nation, we talk of different indicators of health. For example, here we have taken five indicators. Neonatal mortality, which is mortality of children within first month. Then maternal mortality, which is mothers die during giving birth to a child. Then percentage of population with diabetes, because that is the new epidemic which we are facing. Then high blood pressure, hypertension, and tuberculosis, which is an old enemy. And we have compared our country with our neighbors, China, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Thailand, and one developed country, United Kingdom, because we were earlier a colony of United Kingdom, and all our health and public health systems are patterned and developed from what United Kingdom or Great Britain left us in 1947. So if you look at each indicator, neonatal mortality, we are much, much above most of the, so which is bad, because this high mortality shows that our newborns are not surviving. Similarly, maternal mortality, if you compare India, China, again, we are bad. Diabetes percentages, again, if you see, even compared with UK, we are higher. Hypertension, blood pressure, we are same as UK and many other countries, which are almost the same. Tuberculosis, which are one of the highest except in Bangladesh. So even though we have made lot of progress, these numbers at the time of independence were very, very bad. But from there, we have made a lot of progress. But as compared to our neighbors, we are still behind and we need to improve. And that is the role of public health, that we try to improve the whole health of the country. So let me begin with a question. What is public health? In short, it is health of all people taken together. Normally what happens is when you talk to a doctor, he examines a patient who comes to his hospital or his clinic, but he is not bothered about what is happening in the community. Whereas the public health people are bothered or count and take action for all people's health in the state or country or city. So health of the whole community. There was a very famous professor of public health in Britain, and he has given this definition of public health. He says public health is the science and art of preventing disease. So the first important thing is disease prevention. Second thing, prolonging life, because if people die early, that is not good because of the disease. So prolonging life, promoting health through the organized efforts and informed choice of the society, organizations, public and private communities and individuals. So it is preventing disease and promoting health through a joint effort or collective effort of the people, their communities, and the public, means government and private individuals. So everybody working together, as we are currently doing in COVID. Government is doing its part, we are doing our part to prevent further spread. So that is what is public health. Now, if you look at public health, what does it include? Now, public health starts, this left side diagram shows it very well. There are many aspects, surveillance, and I have on the right hand side compared to what we are doing in COVID. For example, we are doing surveillance or early identification of COVID cases, isolating them, identifying their contacts, and quarantining them. So that is surveillance. Monitoring, which is monitoring of the data and outcomes, like how many patients got tested, how many patients turned out to be positive, where they are, which city, which district, and how many died. That is monitoring. Then analysis of the trends of test, cases, deaths. So we have been seeing that tests are going up, tests are going down, vaccination is going up, vaccination is going down. So all of that is public health work to analyze the data. Then outbreak investigation. You may have recently heard that there has been this Delta Plus new variant which has come. On the last 2-3 days TV program, they are covering it. Now, where is that outbreak? It is there in 3 states, in 6 districts of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Kerala. Now, the public health teams will investigate those cases, their contacts, and try to contain. So, disease prevention strategy, which is preventing spread of the disease. We have been using this acronym called SMS, social distancing, mask, and sanitation in the context of COVID. There could be other prevention. For each disease has a prevention strategy. Then communication to the public to alert, but to reduce fear and stigma. In COVID, there has been a big challenge that we want to make everybody aware so that they take the actions to prevent, but they should not be frightened or they should not develop stigma for the patients. So that is the communication. Then emergency preparedness. We suffered in the second wave because we couldn't prepare for the second wave. Now, Chief Minister of Gujarat has said, please prepare so that we can handle double the size of the second wave if a third wave comes. So everybody is taking care, preparing for the medicines, beds, staff, etc., more than what we had to mobilize last time in April and May. Then recovery from the second wave or recovery from an epidemic and starting routine services. So unlocking, how to unlock. Then also rehabilitation, because many cases have permanent lung damage in COVID and they need rehabilitation. So those kinds of services. Then environmental health, so sanitation, distancing, ventilation, which are all parts of environmental health in context of COVID. Then research on all aspects of COVID, how it is transmitted, how it is treated, what treatment is good, what treatment doesn't work. You may have heard suddenly after some time data comes that this treatment is not effective, that treatment is more effective, etc. And finally, health promotion, which is how to ensure, there is a typographic here mistake, ensure COVID appropriate behavior. So how can we communicate to the people and promote behavioral change so that they follow the COVID appropriate behavior? So all the things which we have done in COVID, except for treating the cases, is part of public health. The treatment of cases, giving oxygen, giving medicine, hospitalization, prescription of medicines, doing laboratory tests are all clinical medicine which doctors, nurses, technicians do. Rest of the things to prevent the disease spread, control it, change people's behavior is all public health. So WHO and other public health agencies have identified 10 public health measures or public health, they call it essential public health functions. So these are the functions which all governments must do, which includes, as we discussed, and we have already discussed some, so I'll not go into that, monitor health status of the community. Then diagnose and investigate health problems and health hazards, like we are doing currently for COVID. Then inform and educate and empower people on the health issues so they can take action. Then mobilize community partnership for action to identify and solve health problems. Then develop policies, plans to support individuals and communities. So health planning and policy making is also part of public health. Enforce laws and regulation like mask mandate or mask law. We have given it to the police to enforce it. Link people to the needed health services. In the peak COVID time, there was this big problem of people not getting beds in the hospital. So that is also a public health problem, to create adequate capacity and provision of transportation, etc., to ensure people get treatment. Then assure competent public and personal healthcare workforce. That means to have proper skilled, trained and motivated health workers, doctors, nurses, technicians to provide the care needed. And finally, evaluate the effectiveness, accessibility, quality of personal and population-based health services. So many times we do provide services, but we don't know how good they are. And so we were talking about having competent workforce and evaluation of the quality of care. And that also becomes very important if we want to reduce the mortality when such epidemics happen or when routine services are provided. Then research for new insights into the innovative solutions. So more doing research to find out new ways of controlling the epidemic. So these are the 10 public health functions which are called essential functions by the government. This is an interesting diagram. Health is provided by various kinds of network of institutions, hospitals, independent doctors, home health care, laboratories, some NGO hospitals, nursing homes. But all of that is connected through a public health system, and public health systems acts as a coordinating agency or a glue to bind the health providers and ensure governance and ensure that they all work in the favor of the patients and ensure that health is improved. So that is the role, central role of public health agencies. If you look at public health management, it has application in many different disciplines: biology, microbiology, public policy. Many fields are required, different disciplines are required, like in management. In management schools also we have different disciplines. Here also I have listed all the disciplines which are required to be understood and taught to a good public health manager, including law, public administration, ethics, business management, sociology, even statistics, computer science, etc. So in some sense, it is a subject which has evolved out of many disciplinary functions. Now, before we move on, let me little bit give you two examples from history, which are somewhat relevant in today's India and tell us how we can improve our health situation. The first, I take you back to Europe's analysis of deaths in the year 1664-65. In the 17th century, there were plague epidemics. And in England, London, the London government used to compile weekly mortality records called bills of mortality. Those people, because plague caused thousands of deaths in that time. So every week, people's mortality was counted, tabulated, analyzed. You see here, well printed by cause of death in each week, and annual report was also made just before Christmas for that year, and weekly reports were made. And based on that, they decided the strategy to combat plague and reduce plague mortality. There was no antibiotic, no bacteria were known, but they knew that plague had something to do with rats. And that is how, by counting why people die, where people die, they were trying to control the epidemic. Now we come to today's India, 21st century India. How do we count the dead? Our dead officially reported by COVID are about 3 lakhs, but estimated by various people could be 10 to 20 lakhs. And we have been seeing last 1, 2, 3 months, these pictures on media of lot of burning funeral pyres and bodies in the Ganga, etc. So one thing we have not been able to copy from Europe or do it well is what they had achieved in 1600s, that correct mortality recording, analysis, and then fighting the pandemic based on that. So that is one historical thing which I wanted to show you, how meticulous the Europeans were in recording mortality and taking steps based on that. The second, my question is the maternal mortality, which is death of mothers in childbirth. In India is around 130 or so 3 years back. Now it may be 100 per 100,000 births. In Sweden, it is 4 per 100,000. So difference of almost 25 times difference. Now, why is this? Why Sweden has such low mortality? We have very high mortality. So somebody may say simple reason, India is very poor. The GDP is about $3,000 PPP, and Sweden has $36,000. So more than 10 times. So Sweden is rich. That's why mortality is low. So that's correct. That is one of the reasons. The other is India is very big. We have 138 crore population. Sweden has 1 crore population. So it is easy to do it. Yes, that is also correct, but that is not the main or only reason. The next slide shows you what is one of the reasons why we have high mortality. All of you admire, and we are very proud that we have Taj Mahal. It was built in 1600s by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in the memory of his wife, who died in 14th childbirth. And he was very moved, so he got the whole treasury of the country and put it to use and built a Taj Mahal. Around the same years, on the right hand side, this is the Queen Eleonora of Sweden. She had very difficult pregnancy. She was very sick during pregnancy, and the king was very worried, and there was nobody in Sweden to take care of her delivery. So the king had to call doctors from France in those years, 1600s, to take care of the queen. Queen delivered, the doctors took care of her, and she was all right. She did not die like the queen, unlike the Queen of India. But the king was so unnerved or so much felt bad that how come nobody in my country can take care of women in delivery? So he sent this doctor, John Van Woerm, his main doctor, to go to France, learn the art of doing deliveries of women, and come back and train rural women through community midwifery, so that rural women in Sweden would have one lady, not doctor, but lady nurse or lady dai or lady midwife to take care of them during delivery. And this is the symbol of Swedish Midwifery Association, which was formed 300 years ago. And in Sweden, trained midwives provided most of the delivery care. And they did not build a Taj Mahal in the memory of the queen, but they invested money to train people, develop the capacity to take care of women in those years. And that's why Sweden had the lowest mortality of women. So lesson is wherever we invest, we get the results. So Swedish, if they have to see Taj Mahal, they have to come to India. But if we have to learn midwifery, we have to go to Sweden. So it is the social priority which determines how much health or ill health we will have. Next, I come to challenges in public health. We are a developing country, middle income or getting into middle income from low income. So there are many challenges: low life expectancy, infant mortality, low immunization, nutrition. So you name it, and many problems, communicable as well as non-communicable diseases we have. So we have to take care of all this through public health interventions. So what do public health interventions achieve? So they achieve prevention of disease, they save lives and livelihoods. For example, smallpox, through vaccination we have eradicated. જેને આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં શીતળા કહેતા હતા, એ હવે આખા વર્લ્ડમાંથી જતા રહ્યા છે વેક્સિનેશનને લીધે. એવી રીતે પોલિયો આપણે ત્યાંથી ગયો છે, આખા વર્લ્ડમાંથી જતો રહેશે because of vaccination. Improved health and well-being. We are trying to see that nutritional status improves, people's mental health improves, etc. Reduce cost and save money for families, societies, and countries. So public health also promotes cost-effective healthcare. It reduces the risks and looks after vulnerable people. So those, why I put the maternal mortality example was mothers during childbirth or pregnancy and childbirth are most vulnerable, the mother and child. So most public health actions focus on mother and child first, and then other diseases, etc. Then we help develop human capital and increase economic growth. Because if children are well developed, they have good nutrition, their brains develop well, they will do well in the school also. So all that is also part of public health. There are some slides from US, what public health does and why public health should be funded more. So they are very important in communities. For children, it saves lives as well as saves money, both. And the next slide shows. So one of the first things public health people did was to develop child health interventions like immunization. We have a whole program of 7 different types of diseases prevented through immunization. Then we have disease outbreaks and their control, like what we are currently, the whole pandemic control is also that. Newborn screening, screening of women for cancers, reducing tobacco use, producing on-the-job safety or occupational health and safety, etc. All of that, air pollution, removing lifestyle diseases, these are all public health things which will make the country stronger, community stronger, and reduce the disease. Public health also saves lives. They have made estimates in US that if you increase 10% in local public health expenditures, the infant death rate decreased by 7%, cardiovascular or heart disease goes down by 3%, diabetes goes down by 1.4%, cancer goes down by 1%. And one of the most successful in the Western countries have been smoking reduction. In 1965, 42% of Americans were smoking, while in 2010, only 19% of Americans were smoking, and that also reduced the disease, heart disease, as well as stroke and cancer. Similarly, wearing seat belts also reduced injuries in road accidents by 50%. So all these measures are public health measures. Public health measures return on investment is also very high. For example, $1, it has been calculated, invested in public health saves $5 in healthcare expenditure. In children, $1 spent on vaccination reduces $16 of health and disease cost among children later on. But yet, it is found that 75% of US health expenditure is on diseases which can be prevented, like obesity or overeating and obesity, heart disease, diabetes, etc. And only 3% of public health total expenditure is going to public health, which can prevent such diseases at a very low cost. And that is why even Benjamin Franklin, one of the founders of the US, said in his times that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So that if you do prevention at a very low cost, you can reduce the disease, morbidity, mortality, and also improve the health of the community. Now we are facing not only with the old disease like malaria, dengue, TB, leprosy, etc., but also new diseases and behavioral risk factors. For example, I showed you tobacco use, smoking tobacco, as well as in India, eating or chewing tobacco is very common. Harmful use of alcohol, inappropriate diet, and lack of physical activity and air pollution are emerging as a very important disease risk factors causing many chronic diseases. And to deal with this, we don't need doctors. Once cancer happens, we need doctor, but to prevent air pollution, you need engineers, you need public health people, you need people who are environmental scientists. Similarly, to reduce tobacco consumption, you need behavioral counseling and psychological support to de-addict people from tobacco and alcohol. For appropriate nutrition, you need guidance by nurses and dietitians. For physical activity, you need again advice from doctors, nurses, as well as physical instructors. So all of them are doing public health work. I just give one example of how public health policy work can reduce different diseases. And there is evidence from developed countries as well as developing countries. In UK, because of the taxation, advertising bans, smoking-free policy or no smoking policy, health warnings, etc., between 1981 to 2000, almost 48% of mortality was reduced, which was attributed to smoking because of smoking reduction, because of all these policies. The next slide shows from one study how we can have triple benefit. In France and in South Africa, they increased the taxation on tobacco. They tripled the tax from 100 units. This is the tax level. This is the consumption graph. So as the tax goes up from 100 to almost 300 units, the consumption rapidly fell. Similarly, in South Africa also, if you see when the tax starts going up, almost 3 times the consumption becomes half. So what is happening is tripling of cigarette prices through tax, half the consumption of it, and doubled the inflation adjusted government revenues. So government earned more through the taxes, so it can spend more. People reduce smoking because it was becoming very expensive. And so the health benefit as well as the tax advantage to the government happened through tax policies. And that is also a public health measure. The roles of public health professionals. What do public health professionals do? If you quickly look at this slide, just read the things which public health professionals of different type do. And I'm not going to read. There are various types of public health professionals which work with the health professionals, the public policy makers, the government officers, politicians, and then come out with public policies, public health research, monitoring and evaluation of programs, providing public health services like immunization, etc., food safety. If you see, there are so many aspects of public health. And that is why public health is a really multidisciplinary field. We need people from medicine, nursing, social sciences, entomology, industrial hygiene, anthropology, social work. So all kinds of background people can do public health. Pharmacy, public administration, dentistry, informatics. So all different type of people can do biostatistics, engineering, nutrition, journalism. So all the backgrounds are very, very useful in public health work because it is highly multidisciplinary. Now, public health management cadre or appointing official public health managers in India started with National Rural Health Mission. Earlier, we had public health officers, but not public health managers. In 2005, under National Rural Health Mission, we appointed new managers who are MBA or MHA, Master of Hospital Administration, or MPH degrees, and may or may not be doctors. At the district level to manage various public health programs, at the state level as program officers and state coordinators, and in hospitals as assistant hospital administrators. And their role was to help the doctor in the hospital as well as in the district health officers to manage the programs better. So this was a new initiative, and now that has multiplied and many more managers are appointed in various places in the health department. So generally there are three places where managers work in the health department: working in the health sector, which is the health offices like local health office of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, etc. Then in the hospitals to manage the patients and manage the hospitals, and in the public health programs where they are actually delivering primary care, preventive care, health education, and also implementing the public health legislations. That is where the health managers and public health managers work. Even in the National Health Policy of 2017, it was specifically mentioned that India needs a specialized management skills, and it proposes to create a public health management cadre in all states with qualification in public health or related disciplines. Unfortunately, this has not been yet fully implemented. Some states have implemented, some states are in the transition. And they also said that such managers should have proper career progression, because sometimes government appoints people on ad hoc basis and without much career progression, they don't take real interest and are looking for other options, etc. So the real benefit of a public health management cadre will not be achieved. Now, how public health management education differs from general management education? One may ask, because we are a management association, or from public health education in terms of curriculum and pedagogy. Now, there is substantial overlap and substantial commonality, but there is some things which are different in public health management as compared to pure commercial or general management. Now, what is public health management? So, in sense, improving nation's health by improving management of the public health program. So, we are looking at the management aspect of the program, not the public health aspect of the program. So it also means mobilization and management of society's resources, including specific resources of the health service sector to improve health of population through whatever means appropriate. So various management techniques to be used in improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the public health programs. If we look at the public health training and the management training, then we see that on the left-hand side, we have shown the key domains of public health training, which is biostatistics, epidemiology, behavioral sciences, health policy, and management. So the management aspect is already covered in public health and environmental sciences. And on the right-hand side, various domains are given where program management and policy development are specific things which are related to public health management. Now in India, public health managers are produced in two ways. First was that senior doctors or medical graduates were trained in public health, in community medicine, preventive and social medicine, or in some management and administration of public hospitals. That is still existing in the major public hospitals and AIIMS-like institutions, or each medical college trains a few community medicine people. But their public health aspect is more. Whereas now we have programs which are opened for medical and non-medical graduates both, in terms of management and administration, in terms of specific hospital management and administration, then health and hospital management administration combined, and in public health called Master of Public Health. And we at IITH run all of these programs. And we have various degrees now available in India: MBA in Health and Hospital Management, MHA Master of Hospital Administration, Master of Public Health, Diploma in Health Administration, and Postgraduate Diploma in Public Health Management. So various management degrees are available in the health field. There has been some estimation of how many managers would India really need in the health sector. These are very rough estimates made by one of our colleagues from Delhi. And their overall estimate is India will need roughly 45,000 health professionals who have to learn management and manage health services by 2030. So we need a lot of health managers, because as India's economy develops, more and more management skills are needed. To meet with this management challenge, in 2008, the national government launched what is called as postgraduate diploma in public health management. It was government of India supported program, and initially launched in 4 institutions, including IITH Gandhinagar, and later on expanded, as you see on the right, to 10 different institutions. And now there are about 13 institutions offering this program. It is a 1-year program where state government deputes people for further training in public health management, and they become then district health officers or directors of public health at different levels. The course of the PGDHM includes 3 major components: management of the public health system, the public health programs and their technical aspects, and analytical skill modules like epidemiology, demography, disease surveillance, biostatistics, etc. I will not go into details of this, but this is a comprehensive 1-year program where people with medical education or related education and experience in the government come for this training. Now, beyond, we have been thinking of the epidemic for last 2 years. What will managers do generally in the health systems? So first is managing health programs. Different health programs currently are for COVID, but then we will have programs we currently have also for malaria, TB, family welfare, maternal and child health. So managing those programs. Then managing hospitals. So wherever there is large infrastructure, you need separate managers to manage. And one of the reasons we had a lot of difficulty in oxygen procurement during the peak wave, of course, it was increased need, but we don't have good supply chain and logistics managers continuously monitoring supplies in the hospital, and that is the reason why such shortages have happened. And finally, managing community behavior. We are worried about the third wave of the pandemic, and everybody is asking when will it come or not come. This all depends on community behavior management. So we need people in health education and behavior change modification in the community, communication experts as part of this team, which will then ensure that all public health functions are met and pandemic third wave will not come. Towards the end, I want to highlight how health sector contributes to economic development. Health sector contributes to improved health services. They improve the different public health programs and different programs of health delivery, prevention, early screening and treatment, etc., which leads to better outcome, which is healthy young people, healthy old people, working age population, more mothers and children are healthy, which then leads to improved schooling for children as well as rise in productivity in the society. And that leads to economic growth and employment. And that again feedbacks into better health outcomes. In many developed countries, the largest employer of any type is in the health sector. Almost 10% of the workforce works in England and many other countries in the health sector. So health sector is also one of the largest employers, and that way contributes to the economy substantially. So there is a close nexus between the health sector and with good health and longevity of the people. And that is why if you look at the sustainable development goals developed by United Nations, several of them, for example, no poverty, no hunger or nutrition, health, education, gender equity, clean water and sanitation are at least directly or indirectly related to health sector, and also climate change, sustainable cities and communities. So many of them have direct or indirect linkage to the health sector, and health sector can influence these sustainable development goals. So we have to also keep that in mind, that when we are planning, it is not only planning for the health management, but how do we interlink with managers from other fields so that there is an overall development which is sustainable, which is what the world nations have committed themselves to. So in short, the last slide is the key take-home messages that public health is invisible. It is not easily recognizable. It is not easily appreciated by public or politicians or administrators, but it is very vital. And we don't have to remind ourselves now, because of the pandemic, it has become very, very apparent that public health actions are very important for any society to function. For efficient health services and healthy society, good public health management is required. Most of the European societies developed because of good education and good health and social services, which increase their human capacity to produce more, to do higher level of work. And finally, the society, which includes government, NGOs, businesses, and philanthropists, must invest in creating top-class public health management systems in our country, so that the development will be propelled, because individuals and families will not invest in public health management. They will invest in their own health. They will invest in buying services of a doctor, nurse, or a hospital. But public health services, which generally benefit everybody, they will not appreciate its use. So that's why the governments and the society must invest in such services. Finally, I want to end by what Mahatma Gandhi once had said. It is health that is the wealth and not the pieces of gold and silver. So that we must keep in mind that if you have lot of wealth but no health, you can't enjoy your wealth. So you must have good health as the basis for development and not just look at the wealth of the nation or a person or a society. So with this, let me thank once again Ahmedabad Management Association, its office bearers, Mukund Bhai, Rajiv Bhai Mehta, and all others for inviting me for this talk. This is our campus in Gandhinagar. If you are there anytime in Gandhinagar, you are most welcome. We are there from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Anytime you can just call up and visit our campus. We will be delighted to show you and meet with our faculty. Thank you very much.
I think we thank you very much, Dr. Mavlankar, for your great insight. I think the comments and the questions itself say that people were inclined to the subject and they got the exposure on public health care management. I think, as you rightly explained, that the awareness creation and focus on knowledge and infra development, investment in the healthcare management will definitely save a lot of cost on medical costs, basically. And as you rightly mentioned, that it's known that prevention is better than cure. So that is where the focus should be. And for that, as you said, that there is a lot of employment opportunities for people. The youngsters can also get a lot of tips through this, that they can go into the healthcare sector and become healthcare managers. There are thousands of employment needs. So it will help the economy, employment, and so on. So in nutshell, it was a very interesting session, speaking about need, speaking about the experience of different countries like uh, Scandinavian country or US and Europe, and also focusing on the jobs to do in India. And I think we have been able to overcome the second wave quite rapidly after a disastrous performance in the second wave. You showed the pictures, but I think the preparation and the awareness for the third wave will definitely save us. We are also focusing on healthcare management through vaccination and such things, which is also moving. So I think in nutshell, it was very, very interesting, eye-opening, and catching presentation from you. Thank you very much for this from all of us at AME. And I thank all the participants to join us for this. And we hope to have you again for next 3 days. Thank you very much.